Gary, all the other numbers look pretty good. They really do. The problem you've got is getting the MAX back into the air. Once you get it, and once the FAA clear it, how quickly can you turn things around with the MAX?
Well, thanks, Guy, and thanks for having us this morning. And I agree. I think that, I've been telling folks for some time we have one issue, and it's the MAX, and everything else actually is in really good shape. And I'm very proud of our people. Right now, we're working on an assumption that the MAX will be ungrounded by the FAA in December. And based on that, we've got the MAX published in our schedule, taking bookings on February the 8th and forward. We've got an assumption of roughly 30 airplanes in service at that point. We own 34 at this point, so I think all those are reasonable assumptions. But I just have to quickly add, Boeing has missed all of their predicted schedules so far. The nice thing about where we stand today is the final software has been submitted to the FAA this week. The FAA is evaluating that, and so we're at least in the certification process, if you will, with the FAA, and I do think that is a great progress. But whether they will be done with their review and unground the airplane in December, I just don't know.
Okay. How damaged has your relationship with Boeing been as a result of this? And do you think the departure of Kevin McAllister is going to allow a reset? Well,
no. Kevin McAllister did a phenomenal job. Kevin inherited this, and I was very sad and sorry to see him go. Boeing has tremendous talent, and Stan Deal, who is now in charge of commercial, is a wonderful executive. We have a great relationship with him, and he'll do a fantastic job as well. So, yeah, I mean, there's damage, and there's financial damages that have been incurred, and none of this is irrecoverable. Boeing's a great company, and they have a wonderful history, and they need to get this behind them and look forward to a great future. And we hope that that's the case, because we want to be a part of that.
And Gary, what about this idea of getting some sort of compensation or reimbursement with regards to the delays that we're seeing with the 737 MAX? How are those talks proceeding with Boeing?
Well, again, more than an idea, Boeing's already set aside reserves for that, and absolutely, we're demanding that be the case. We've suffered significant harm, and it's a great setback for us. So, they're private conversations, and they're progressing. And as I mentioned in the press release, we're anxious for those to get concluded. So I have two primary objectives right now. One is to settle up with Boeing on that, and the second is let's get the MAX safely back in the air, and that's our focus.
Okay, one last question on the MAX here, because I mean, part of the success of Southwest, particularly with regards to controlling costs, was this idea of operating sort of one type of plane. And I'm just wondering, you guys are obviously sticking with that strategy, but I'm just wondering, can you make a case for me as to why that is not more of a risk in light of what's happened with the 737 MAX?
I think I could make a case, and I don't know how compelling the case would be. We don't have time to do it here this morning, but as I pointed out, that is a question that is a logical question to be asked. I would expect our board to ask that of us, and they have, and we'll be looking at that question next year. It brings tremendous advantages, having a single supplier and a single fleet type. Safety is among those. We have every pilot in our company is expert on the 737. So they're not switching between aircraft types, and that's a huge advantage for us in terms of cost efficiency as well. But the disadvantage is obvious to you and to us, and is something that we're going to have to look at. But that'll be a question for later and for next year.
Gary, when did you last speak to Airbus? And what do you think of the A320?
Talk to Airbus all the time, and I know the people. They have tremendous leadership as well. They produce a terrific product as well. We think the Boeing MAX 8 is the best narrow-body airplane in the world, and we still believe that. The A320 is a very good competitor, but it doesn't match the MAX 8. Boeing doesn't really have a competitor, as close a competitor to the Airbus A220, which is something that we had already been looking at. But again, the MAX, we'd already decided that the MAX was our future. We've got orders for the MAX 7 in addition to the MAX 8, and I'm hopeful that we can continue with that. But that'll have to be, as I said, that's something that we'll have to take a good hard look at next year.
Having a 320 fleet right now is clearly an advantage. How hard is it going to be to persuade the traveling public not to fly on an Airbus aircraft and to fly on the MAX? How hard is it going to be? How combative are you going to have to be once you get this aircraft back in the air to get the customers back?
Well, I'm confident, but you make an obvious and excellent point, which is there are those that are unconvinced. And it will be incumbent upon Boeing, the FAA, and the airlines, including Southwest, of course, to convince the traveling public that it's safe. As long as the airplane performs well, I think that that in time will be a non-issue. You know, there are airplane issues around the world every day, and most of them don't make headlines. So it would be best if the MAX is returned to service and there aren't nagging issues that are sort of dogging the airplane, and hopefully there won't be.
So, Gary, I mean, we've heard from some of your competitors, including Delta, which have claimed that they're picking up business from Southwest. They've specifically singled out Southwest. I'm wondering, what is your current capacity situation right now, specifically relative to the rest of the industry?
Well, there's no question that our competitors are picking up business. And, you know, our capacity in the third quarter was down 2.9%. It will be down slightly in the fourth quarter just for holiday reasons. And if you all are interested, I can explain that a little more. It's just there's a unique holiday schedule that we're not able to produce this year. But, yeah, we're about 8% below where we would have expected to be with our capacity. And in other words, instead of declining, we would have expected to grow this year. So, yeah, that puts us at a disadvantage. It's temporary, and I think our competitors know that. As soon as we get the airplanes, we're going to put them in service and restore our presence in these markets. The other thing I would point out to you all very quickly is that we've tried to trim our schedule gently in all of our markets so that we're not impacting just one market. So it's kind of across the board. We're flying less than we otherwise would. We're still able to follow through with our expansion to Hawaii, which is a good thing, and that will continue on into next year.
Okay, we only have a short amount of time left. Talk to me about Hawaii. I mean, there was a lot of fanfare, at least by the media, with regards to your push into Hawaii. At least from the surface, it appears that that's been scaled back a bit. Can you tell us sort of what the status of that is?
Well, it's scaled back only in the sense that it's been deferred a bit and it's purely because of the MAX, not because of the performance of the Hawaii markets. But we're launching more flights next month. We've got follow-on launching more flights in January. As of January, we will basically be in line with our original plans. We just are getting there a little bit slower, but the demand is great.
Do you think you can be profitable in that market, a market that's already dominated by Hawaiian, a market that hasn't really shown support for more than one major airline?
Well, why else would we go in the market? Of course we do, and we're actually ahead of in terms of the progress and the development of the market. We're ahead of where we expected to be. I expect that to be one of our better performing markets in a very short period of time. We have a tremendous customer presence in California, and that's their number one vacation destination, and we'll do well there.